We're on.
Thousands of retired Black professional players, their families, and supporters are demanding an end to the controversial term race norming. We talk about it. The WNBA tipped off its 25th season on Friday, May 14th. We share our thoughts on opening weekend. And who wants all the smoke? Kwame Brown. He wants all the smoke. We talk about that beef and more coming up right here on Fourth and Just Us. Welcome to Fourth and Just Us, everyone. So glad that you could join us again for another episode. We have tons of great information coming your way today. Lericia Harris here alongside Kevin Anderson, aka AD, the former athletic director, and the professor himself, Dr. Leonard Moore. We again welcome you to the show. Wherever you are watching us, don't forget to like us if you're on Facebook, watching us on Facebook Live, subscribe to us on YouTube, and also remember throughout the entire show, leave us your questions, your comments, and we will get to them and respond to them throughout the show. Guys, so much information that we need to talk about. But last week, we discussed this particular topic, especially with our guest that we had, Northwestern University, and their search for an athletic director. We know that the president, Morton Shapiro, says that he knew the optics of hiring Mike Polisky would be tough. So we did see Mike Polisky resign amid the protests from students and faculty because of the situation that he's involved in as it pertains to a lawsuit. But now the search will continue. The committee will reconvene and go forth with the process of searching for a new one as the interim will take over. But with this in mind, you guys, what are your thoughts on how this situation has been handled, and who do you think would be a good fit for this role? AD?
Well, you know, our guest last week is ideal. And for whatever reason, she was passed by. It came out that she was a finalist. I mean, if you look at Anuka Brown, she's worked in corporate America for IBM. She's worked at the University of Buffalo. She's worked for the Knicks, and she was VP of women's basketball at the NCAA. So my question is, what more qualified could a person be? And, you know, the president is about to retire. So what better legacy would he have than to hire the first African-American woman who would be an athletic director in the Big Ten? And I could tell you, I've worked with her. I've been on her committees. She's more than qualified, and she's probably one of the best athletic administrators in the country. So, I mean, he could make his job much easier by getting on the phone and asking her if she's still interested in hiring her. And the other thing, and I'll be brief with this, I mean, she put women's basketball on the map for Northwestern. Her sister went to Northwestern. I believe her sister graduated from their business school. Her daughter went there and was a phenomenal lacrosse player. And I think she graduated from the business school as well. So what better person with Northwestern ties and everything else would be great to be the next AD? I believe it's a no-brainer.
Doc?
No, I mean, you know, I agree with Kevin. You know, I'm just amazed at how schools with tremendous intellectual resources like Northwestern and unlimited financial resources commit these major PR blunders. You know what I mean? It just reeks of arrogance. And when Kevin was basically laying out Anuka's resume, the Knicks, NCAA, University of Buffalo, and also VP at the NCAA, she checks all the boxes. So think about this for a minute. If she were a former white football player at Northwestern, who had worked in the NFL, who had worked at the NCAA, who had worked at a university, and who had worked at a major corporation, it would be a slam dunk that that person would get hired. So Northwestern, let's do the right thing and hire Anuka Brown.
Understood. Moving on now. The NFL and this race norming situation, thousands again of Black professional football players, their families and supporters are demanding an end to this controversial use of race norming to determine which players are eligible in the NFL's $1 billion settlement of brain injury claims. So with this particular situation, I want to further explain it right before I get you all's opinion on it. Under this settlement, right, the NFL has insisted on using a scoring algorithm on the dementia testing that assumes Black men start with lower cognitive skills. They must therefore score much lower than whites to show enough mental decline to win an award. Doc, is the NFL being racist?
I mean, here's what I tell people. I mean, at its core, this is the foundation of racism, right? The idea that you are just inherently inferior to a white person. And so I don't care about not hiring Black coaches, all that kind of stuff, not letting them celebrate in the end zone. But what gets more racist at its core than this idea that you all are born deficient intellectually? And so when it comes to this, these settlements, I mean, you got the NFL has 20,000 alums. The majority of them are African-American. And what they're finding is that it is hard for these brothers to get some of the $1 billion settlement that's been allotted. Because again, the NFL is going through, and some of this is also the medical profession as well. They're basically saying, because you all start off dumber than your white teammate, that we're going to use a different algorithm or dashboard in order to determine whether you get a payout or not.
AD.
So my first question is where's the union in all this? And how are they representing everybody? Because, well, the words I want to describe this, I'm trying to make sure that we're appealing to all our audience, so I won't use those words. But it's ridiculous. These people have sacrificed a great deal and have made the NFL billions of dollars. And you tell me they can't settle this and act like these are all decent people and treat them accordingly and make sure they get taken care of. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, my bigger problem is that they get away with this.
Yeah. Lericia, let me add this. When they had the 9/11 bombings, the Twin Towers, okay, you had everybody in those buildings. You had janitors and you had people working for these large banks, Goldman Sachs and all that. When they did the payout for the 9/11 victims, everybody got the same amount. It didn't matter how much education you had, didn't matter your race or your gender or what your salary was. Everybody got the same amount. And this is problematic, and the NFL could change it, but it seems like they're being very resistant and stubborn.
So again, this is a practice that went unnoticed until 2018, which has, of course, hindered many of the Black former players from getting awards. And we know that recently former Washington running back Ken Jenkins and his wife delivered about 50,000 petitions, demanding equal treatment for Black players to the senior U.S. district judge in Philadelphia, who is sort of overseeing this massive settlement. So again, this is an issue that is currently taking place right now and is being fought by many of the former retired professional players. WNBA now, they tipped off their 25th season on Friday, May 14th. After a very eventful offseason, you all, opening weekend, just want to give you some stats here. The Chicago Sky versus the Mystics, that was the most viewed regular season game since 2012. And I also must highlight the Atlanta Dream for what they did on the broadcast side. And I know that Renee Montgomery, who was, of course, a part of this on the business side of things now, as I believe she's part owner of the Dream as well. She is responsible for pushing forth the initiative of getting an all-female African-American broadcast crew. I know all four of those ladies. I commend them. They have been doing an excellent job. But these are just some of the changes, some of the things that we saw during opening weekend. What were your thoughts, AD, on the WNBA, their opening weekend as they tipped off the 25th season?
Truly a great weekend. The basketball was tremendous. But my only question is, and Lericia, you said that I don't believe Atlanta totally got it right. because if they did, you would have been a member of that crew. So they're almost there. They need to pick up the phone tonight and say, hey, you want to come work with us? And then everything would be beautiful, and they've done a tremendous job. But until then, they're a little off still.
I appreciate that, Kevin. But those are my girls, man. LaChina Robinson, Tabitha Turner, Autumn Johnson, and of course my sister Angel Gray. They have been holding down the fort, making things pop off and happen over there. So they've been doing it. They've been doing it, Kevin. They got it right, in my opinion. Doc?
I think what the ratings showed opening week, Lericia, was this. It answered this question of promotion versus interest, right? And so, you have these debates that'll be like, well, the WNBA is not promoted because nobody's interested in it. But what we found is that if you promote it, people will watch it, and, I just want to talk about Sabrina Ionescu for a minute. Sister came from Oregon. COVID kind of knocked out her rookie year. I mean, that white sister is balling. And, you read these articles and it's like they use this coded language, Lericia, like this is what the WNBA needs. What they're talking about is that the WNBA needs a white star. That's what they need. And I think people are thinking that Sabrina can bring more viewers to the table, but she can ball, put up a triple-double the other day, playing in the biggest market, the New York Liberty. So hopefully this gets the WNBA off to a great start. But let me say this, Lericia, can we get more than 12 teams, please? Because I have so many former students who played at Texas who get drafted, who don't make the team because there aren't just enough roster spots. So we need more than 12 teams. Can we get a team in every major market? Can we get at least 30 teams like the NBA has? That's my wish.
And that expansion conversation has definitely been happening on WNBA Twitter. If you haven't seen it, all you have to do is just go and put on Twitter the hashtag WNBA Twitter. And that expansion conversation has been going on, especially from a lot of ladies that I know that are fully involved in the coverage of WNBA and have been for quite some time. I follow tons and tons of women and other reporters who thoroughly cover the league. And this is one thing I know that has been top tier right now, discussing that because of exactly what you said, Doc. So many young women who are talented and can play the game just don't have the opportunity because there aren't enough spots. So hopefully we can see that expansion take place here soon. Let's talk about it now, though. This beef that has been trending all over Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever social platform you want to name. It's been on there in the blogs, in the headlines. Who wants all the smoke? Kwame Brown. He wants all of the smoke. We know that there's been this beef between him, Matt Barnes, and also Steven Jackson. And let's just say that it all started because of Gilbert Arenas. He was a guest on Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson's podcast, All the Smoke. And the conversation sort of came about when Arenas was discussing how he came on the Washington Wizards and sort of made them a contender at this time. And the discussion with Kwame Brown came into play as, him saying it was a little difficult when he entered the league, as a teenager. There was these expectations that Michael Jordan sort of had, that maybe he just did not reach these unrealistic demands. And that circumstances sort of prevented him from doing so. And of course, there were the jokes. There were even things such as a show pony and a man child. Those two names were said about Kwame Brown. And of course, Steven Jackson basically said on there, the best number one pick of all time, and laughed and joked about it. And so this, of course, sparked a comeback by Kwame Brown. So the question that I want to pose to you all, who crossed the line? Who crossed the line here? Doc?
I think these announcers have crossed the line for a long time. This idea, Stephen A. Smith say, well, I'm just critiquing the game. I'm critiquing the game. I've been a professor 24 years. And if you get on TV every other night and tell me I ain't shit, tell me I can't lecture, that I shouldn't be hired, that I shouldn't be a faculty member. No, it is personal. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny. And we got to be honest, Lericia, particularly in this age of social media with the podcasts and people wanting followers and views, these announcers and media personalities, they have got to do something to keep people engaged. So you got to create crazy stuff, or to Kwame Brown's point, Hey, let's go with the one thing we know will work. Let's talk bad about another black person. Lericia, my dad told me this a long time ago. He said, never talk publicly, never talk in public bad about another person. I did it one time. I was on 60 Minutes in 2007, and I talked bad about the New Orleans mayor, Ray Nagin. Now, in my mind, Ray Nagin deserved it. But after I did it, you know what I realized, Lericia? The soundbite and all that, the 5 minutes of fame I got from tearing down Ray Nagin, it wasn't worth it. So I want to tell these brothers, it ain't worth it. And I don't care about, well, I'm critiquing this game. These are people. But, you know, and so that's my frustration. So those brothers crossed the line by talking about Kwame Brown. And I support that brother for coming back at him.
AD?
Damn, Doc, you were on 60 Minutes?
Come on, man. Yeah.
I'm traveling in I'm traveling in some mighty high company here. You know, social media has created this, and hey Doc, there is no line. There's no line.
Right.
It's all about your brand and selling and you making yourself more popular so you can make more money, because it's all about the money. I have no problem with Kwame. The only thing I do is that I wish he wouldn't have used the N-word so much. But I mean, they brought the beef to him and he felt that this was the way to address it. And all I have to say to Steve and Matt, puff, puff, pass.
I mean, I totally agree with what you all are saying. I feel like maybe this is one of the first instances where they put certain things out and now they just weren't able to take it. You know, they always say, don't step in the kitchen if you can't take the heat. I probably jacked up that whole saying, but it's something like that. But if you can't dish it, if you can't take it, don't dish it, right? And I feel like this is one of those instances with a person who basically came out and said in one of his first rebuttals, I don't have anything to lose. You do, because of the programming, the things that you are doing as it pertains to this podcast. And I think today's response, when Matt Barnes sort of extended the invite for Kwame to come on the podcast, and he said, no, I'm not going to give you any ratings. So I think it was just his perspective of he wasn't a fan of how they tear down. He says he believes that they tear down black males instead of building him up. And if you haven't seen his hour-long YouTube video, he goes into
which
depth.
one, Lericia? He got several.
I know, now he has several, because he's been on a tirade all week. But in one of the first ones that he put out, he basically said that he did not like how they were doing things, saying that they were taking money out of people's mouths. And so I think that's the point he's trying to get across. Whereas Matt Barnes was coming from the perspective of, you're just entertainment. You're bringing, people are looking at you now and you're growing your following only because of the things that you're saying. But the other question I want to pose to you is this whole participation in the fraternity, right? We know that there's like this unspoken fraternity that exists amongst players in various leagues. And so I just want to know, is the participation in this NBA fraternity or this unspoken fraternity necessary?
You know, I think that there's some things that are done that are behind closed doors. You know what I mean? You know, you don't use, private situations for public consumption. Let me say it like that. I like the way that sounded, by the way. You don't do that. You know what I mean? But you will do it for ratings because people are laughing. And let me say this. If you ever go look at a picture of Frederick Douglass, because Lericia, people tell me I'm serious all the time. Frederick Douglass was the most photographed person in the 19th century. Black, white, male, female. He never smiled in photographs. You know why? Because he wanted people to take black men seriously. And so I think Kwame Brown's point is, y'all got this platform and this is what y'all doing with it. But what Kwame doesn't understand is, if they weren't clowning, they wouldn't have the platform.
AD?
Hey, Doc, that's why you're on 60 Minutes. But again, there are rules. There's rules in a fraternity. So now the definition is that I believe they crossed the line with him. And, particularly Kwame ain't done anything to anybody. He's lived his life and he's gone on. And for them to, clown him like the way they did, again, it's all about puff, puff, and pass it. That's what that's all about.
So how does this situation correlate with Jalen and Chris Webber getting back together?
I was happy. The last time I saw those two brothers together, it was Freaknik 1993, Lericia. Old school. That
Oh
was before
gosh.
Freaknik got wild.
Oh
That's when it was
Lord.
all college kids. I knew something was wrong. A year later, I'm in the barber shop and I hear these 35-year-old brothers talking about they going to Freaknik. I'm like, nah, bro, it's for college kids. But I think we have to find a way as black men, especially Lericia, to squash our beasts. You know what I'm saying? Life is too short. And oftentimes, Lericia, we fall out over real small stuff. So I'm glad that those brothers, Weber and Rose, reconnected.
Hey, Doc, you always see an OG at one of those parties, being that voyeur sitting in back, just checking it out and everything else. So, that always happens. Social media and the internet and all these other things have created heroes, because there's a lot of heroes behind this. But when it comes to face-to-face interaction, I doubt if most of these people would confront how they've confronted Kwame and, these other things. So, that's all part of it, because you could get away with this, but if you had to man up and there was an opportunity or a chance to meet people face to face, I think some of this interaction would be far different.
Understood. Moving on now to another conversation surrounding the NBA. The African League debuted on May 16th in Rwanda. And of course, we saw world famous rapper J. Cole, the Grammy winner and celebrated hip hop artist or lyricist. He has ventured into that world of professional basketball, you guys. He signed with Rwanda Patriots franchise. And just your thoughts on hearing about this new league, of course, and then the opening weekend for it. AD?
So I think, we've seen this. I've experienced, because we had many African student athletes come and play with us at Maryland and some of the other places I was at. The thing that I hope it doesn't do is that it doesn't do what happened when Major League Baseball went to Latin America and bring all these young people over here, and some get paid, some don't, but it's changed the course of where we are in Major League Baseball as Black people. So I hope that doesn't happen, because with what they did in Latin America, you don't have to pay the people what they need to be paid, and I hope that doesn't happen in this situation.
Kevin, that's a good point you bring up. Me and my wife were in Dominican Republic a couple of years ago, and I knew, that the Dominican Republic had been, they've been using that for basically an unofficial farm league. And I see the New York Yankees have a 3-story building, man, in this part of the Dominican Republic. And I see these New York Yankee vans driving around this city. I'm like, man, this is where they're doing the recruiting. Here's about the league most people don't understand, Lericia. It is not a new league the NBA put together. It is basically, all these teams have already been formed. They play in their countries than like a regular season. And so this is like a tournament for the top teams on the continent of Africa. And so I just want to clear it up. Some people think the NBA went and started a whole new league. No, it's more or less a tournament, sort of like the Champions League in European soccer. I'm excited. I need to watch J. Cole play. I can't assess his skills. But there we go. Hip hop artists always want to be ballers for some reason, and J. Cole is just another chapter in that long story.
And that goes into play with our discussion for today, hip hop's influence on sports, race and politics, as we discuss here on Fourth and Just Us every week. Time to move to a segment that I thoroughly enjoy. Who put raisins in the potato salad?
Oh, hell nah, Karen. Keep your brand ass potato salad to yourself.
So for this particular segment, I'm going to give you the scenario and then ask you if this person put raisins in the potato salad. This week's scenario is inclusive of Jaguars legend Jimmy Smith, who came out and said in a statement that his former squad should not give Colin Kaepernick the same opportunity it gave Tim Tebow. He said, quote, "We don't need Kaepernick on our team." And his reasoning was because Smith says he fears that Kaepernick would divide the locker room. He said that Tim Tebow is more so of a hometown type of hero who already has love for the city of Jacksonville. And Smith also says that there's nothing racist or sinister about the decision to even look at Tim Tebow. He says that he feels Tebow would be a better fit for the younger locker room. So, AD, this Jimmy Smith, did he put raisins in the potato salad this week?
A lot of them, probably 3 or 4 boxes full. So first of all, what he's saying, and I don't think he's been in that locker room, that there is no leadership in there. Second of all, if they want to bring Tebow in there and think that he would be a valuable resource, there's other ways he can do it other than taking a roster spot from somebody who would be more deserving of it. I mean, he could be a GA, he could come in as an assistant coach. He could come in many different ways if they think he can help the team. But, in this particular case, saying that he's going to come and have an influence Colin Kaepernick, he had a big influence in the locker room and took that team to the Super Bowl and lost in the last minutes. I mean, Colin he's a hell of a leader. For him to do what he's done, and he made himself vulnerable to a point where, he was courageous, because look at all the money that he's lost, and he's still fighting for the cause. So, I can't even see how his name came out of his mouth, and that comparison could even be made.
Well, yeah, I gotta disagree with my fellow Jackson State brother. Jimmy Smith went to Jackson State. We were there at the same time. And two things with the comment. Number one is him using the pronoun we. I don't know if he's on payroll, if he's in the front office, or is he just a former player? Because if you're just a former player, I really caution brothers against using the term we. All right. Secondly, there was no need to Kevin's point. There is no need to bring up Kaepernick. And this is why sometimes brothers got to watch out when you're being interviewed, because sometimes the interviewer will bait you, right? And so all the soundbite we get is we need Tebow, Kaepernick is divisive. And so I don't know, man, we just got to be aware of, understand when people put microphones in our faces. And there you go again. Jimmy Smith fell into the trap of talking bad about another brother. So we got to be careful about that. So he did put the raisins in the potato salad.
Yeah, unfortunately, this week, Jimmy Smith put raisins in the potato salad. I want to move on now. As we prepare to talk about the topic for today's show, which is hip hop's influence on the NBA. And of course, we got to throw in there a little bit of race and politics, because it wouldn't be Fourth and Just Us if we didn't do so. But today we want to talk about that merging of the cultures, right? Hip hop, NBA, we've seen it happen. And there are specific moments in time as it pertains to the game. And we won't even just limit it to the NBA, but the NBA will be like a reference point for us, okay? But we know that there have been several instances where we have seen these cultures sort of collide, also in college football and the NFL. And like I said, we're using the NBA as a reference point. So I want us to start off by talking about, who do you think were some of the key critical players in the merging or the evolution of the cultures sort of coming together? Doc?
1984 Georgetown Hoyas. I was 13 at the time. If you go Google, look at their shoes. They had some blue and gray Nike Dunks with Hoyas on the back. That became the prototype for the first Jordans that came out. All right. So the Georgetown Hoyas, John Thompson, an all-black squad in a very affluent section of DC. To me, they brought hip-hop culture into sports.
AD?
So, Doc, I'm going to go back further. And this was more of bringing R&B in there. But the 70 Pirates, first of all, they were the first team to ever have on the field all black and Latin players.
Wow.
Their uniforms, particularly the Bumblebee uniforms, that was the start of an evolution. And then the We Are Family. And they went to the World Series. They won the World Series, and you heard that, for the whole month of October. So I'd have to say that, if you really want to go back and see who started this, I believe it was the 74-75 Pirates. But then the other thing, and we talked about two of the former players, is the Michigan Fab Five, with the long shorts, the black socks. And then, it was they kind of created that, evil against good. It almost reflects back to, and if you would hear those announcers when they were playing, it was almost like when Miami was playing Notre Dame and it was the convicts against the Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up a valuable point with Georgetown. Georgetown was the same way. Plus, they had a black man with a huge influence and a leader. And this had never happened before. When Big John got together with Coach Chaney and Nolan Richardson and George Raveling, and they threatened to boycott and have not only the coaches boycott, but the players boycott because of Prop 11, whatever it was. That was a starting of another era of intercollegiate athletics. So, all that kind of ties in. And I mean, it brings us to a point where, the Black culture was the one that, helped the NBA survive and now thrive. Looking at when I say Major League Baseball, the Pirate team, I mean, that was something that got everybody excited. And it wasn't just about the baseball, but it was the statement that was made and the music that was being played.
I want to highlight the person who, of course, is my all-time favorite player, Allen Iverson. We saw what he did when he stepped onto the court, right? Nobody's crossover game is as sick as his, okay? I'm just saying it out there. If you want to debate me, come on, we can debate about it. But I'm sticking to what I'm saying. Allen Iverson is the one with it. But to the point of what we're talking about, where these cultures are merging, he's the one who brought that swag, that style. We saw it with the braids. He had it with the baggy clothes, the tattoos, the headband. Everybody was wearing the headband. I don't care what you say. Everybody wore the headband. Everybody was wearing the arm sleeve. They even instituted a dress code because of him. This is the same player that had the conversation when there was discussion of, you talking about practice? Yes, that guy. He was the one who, in my opinion, sort of was an initiator or a key figure in the merging of these two cultures here, because we didn't see before NBA players coming and dressing or showing off their styles, and for the league to come in and implement a whole dress code because of it. What other statement does that make? Right. What does that say about what he was doing at the time? And so I think all of these examples that we gave are just key figures in seeing how they all combine, right? And how hip hop's influence on sports is one that has been there for quite some time, and it has now gone even further. And I want to bring in our guest for today to help us continue this conversation, because he is the one who is also an influential person, David Augustine Jr., aka DEE-1, who has dedicated his entire life to changing the world for the better. He is a hip hop artist and an activist, and he has carved out a unique niche in this business as a rapper, a mathematics teacher, financial literacy expert, public speaker, social influencer, talking about Sally Mae. Everyone, welcome DEE-1 to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank y'all very much for having me.
Yes, so want to bring you in on this conversation too, DEE-1. I know you heard us talk about who we feel like are key and critical players in the merging of these two cultures, but who do you think had a influential role?
You took my answer. You took my answer. I mean, growing up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and being a young brother, I grew up in New Orleans East, right? So we were pretty much pushed into the direction of either being rappers, being basketball players, or being hustlers, meaning like being in the streets and selling drugs. Thankfully I was able to break that chain and know that education was my real big ticket out the hood. But for people who wanted to play basketball, Allen Iverson was someone who was around our height. He was short, so he was someone that we could relate to. He felt tangible, like I could actually be like him. And he's listening to the same type of music that we're listening to, and he's making music as well, because he was a rapper. Don't forget that he was a rapper. So in addition to the clothes that he wore and everything, he was just so tangible in terms of being a role model for people who were like, I feel like he's living my story. He kind of got in some trouble in high school. he made it out because of basketball, but he's really into hip hop. It seemed like he was a walking, talking version of all of us. But I also must say that my fellow LSU alum, Shaquille O'Neal, needs to be on that list as well. Because to this day, Shaquille O'Neal is the only rapper, the only basketball player who has ever gone platinum as a rapper. Wow. Shaquille O'Neal has put 4 major albums out, and Shaquille O'Neal is a person who has always, same thing, embraced his hip hop roots. So we can't sleep on Shaq. Like Shaq had real music videos. He had a real record deal while he was in the NBA. That's unheard of.
And let's not forget, he is a DJ right now. Like the man goes
right
on
now,
tour as a DJ.
I know. One more thing, Shaq sent me a DM a little while back. I never posted it online, but he sent me a DM and he said, I love your flow, homie. I'm wishing you the best. Like, it lets you know that with everything he has going on, he's scouring the internet looking for like who's up and coming and who's out here doing their thing in hip hop. So Shaq DM'd me at like 2 a.m. one night and told me he loved my flow because of a new album I had put out.
So D, let me ask you this, man. People know about your hip hop career. We met at LSU. Tell these folk, were you a baller in high school? So tell us how you got that D1 offer to Duquesne and why you turned it down.
Right.
Could you hoop,
so
first of all?
Yeah. What you said?
Could you hoop, first of all?
Is that really a question? Man, listen. Doc, there's people in the NBA right now. Y'all know DJ Augustine? Wait, he went to Texas. DJ Augustine.
Yeah. I know DJ.
When I was in high school, me and DJ, and both of our last name is Augustine. We would both be in the paper every week because we were 2 of the top 10 scorers in the city of New Orleans at that time. So every week, my daddy would cut the newspaper clippings out and he would show me. I was averaging 19, 20 points a game. DJ was averaging 23, 24 points a game. And you just had different people in the city who were all standout ballers at the time. Me, I had a unique path because I went to a high school that was #1 in the state for academics. We weren't known for athletes at all. So I was in a weird position being a great basketball player, but not coming from a program that really got noticed. So I was the first player in my school history to make like the all-city team, the all-district team. I made the Louisiana Junior Nationals team. But I have a very rare disorder. It's called achalasia. And because of that, I lost a lot of weight senior year. After the season, I had a major surgery and I missed 2 months of school. And after that, the schools that were interested, like Duquesne, like Millsaps, like some other little small schools, they at that point were a lot more nervous about taking me on because I was like a health risk at that point. So I said, I'll go to LSU, and I thought that I could walk on and play D1 ball. But just like J. Cole, I went and attempted to walk on, but it didn't work out in my favor. So I turned to hip hop. So that's how it works. So many brothers in the league right now, before they were ballers, trust and believe they were homeboys in school. Like that's just how it works. So the crossover is real.
Hey, David, we appreciate you and thanks for coming on. One of the things in reading about you is that not only are you a great hip hop artist and a basketball player, so I'll correct that with Doc right now. Yeah, you could play. But you know what's most impressive to me, and on our show, we're all people of faith, and how you brought your faith in as well as the hip hop. So I commend you for that. But talk to us a little bit about that. And in your industry particularly, how does that play out?
Right. So I was actually influenced by Dr. Moore heavily when I was at LSU because I was just giving up on my hoop dreams and I was beginning to walk down this path of being a hip hop artist and trying to find my voice and trying to figure out, am I just trying to build a brand by any means necessary, like y'all alluded to earlier in the show, or am I gonna make sure that certain core values are synonymous with my brand? And Dr. Moore really impressed upon me, if you're gonna do this and if you're gonna get up here and act like a fake gangster and act like somebody that you clearly aren't, I'm not gonna support it. And you know, you wasting your time and you're gonna embarrass everybody who helped nurture you growing up, you know, in New Orleans and in your family. And I thought about it and I said, that's very true. So I need to embrace being a man of God. So you're going to hear my faith at the forefront of what I do. I need to embrace being a college graduate. Why not? A lot of rappers are lying right now, acting like they never went to school and they got a bachelor's degree sitting on their wall at home. You know, it's crazy. Like, I wanted to embrace that. So my motto, I was a middle school teacher, and my motto is be real, be righteous, be relevant. So in everything I do, I have to do those three things. If I'm not being real, then I'm being fake. And who wants to support someone that's fake? You know, if I'm not being righteous, then that means that I'm being unrighteous. That means I'm making the devil proud instead of making God proud. And if I'm not relevant, that means I'm being lazy. Because in this world with so much evil running rampant, we need people that are going to be relevant, that's going to shut up and grind so we can get the attention of these youth. So that's what I've been doing all this time. Like Dr. Moore tell you, when he brought Miss Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, to Baton Rouge to speak to us on campus, he gave me the opportunity to open up for her. So I performed right before she got on stage to speak. And she came up to me after I performed and she said, baby, your passion on stage reminds me of my son's passion when he would perform. And for her to tell me that let me know I'm gonna keep going. I don't care how hard it gets. I don't care if I'm taking the narrow road. I'm gonna keep going. So that's a great question, AD.
With you taking the narrow
Thank
road,
you. God bless you, my brother.
With you taking the narrow road, D1, like what, I know you said you have these three cores, right? You want to be real and all this other kind of stuff, but there's also this activism organizer aspect of what you do. What sparked that particular portion of, you know, your artistry?
It's because before I was a professional rapper, I was Mr. Augustine, the middle school math teacher and the life skills teacher. So I understood that I was pouring into young kings and queens on a daily basis. And I enjoyed that to the fullest. I was a mentor when I was at LSU, mentoring middle school students. So by the time D1 was fully born and D1 was a professional rapper, David Augustine Jr. had already been a leader for several years. So that's why for me, to this day, I travel all over the country and tour and do concerts. I travel all over the world for that matter, because I go to Europe, I go to UK, I'll be in Africa soon. But I still teach financial literacy classes on the weekends. I still teach classes on hip hop lyricism to young men and women who want to be rappers, so I can teach them how to impart some real, righteous, relevant content into their music. So in addition to teaching them literary devices, we're talking about embracing their stories. So this is just always going to be a part of what I do. Just being a rapper was never the goal. The goal was to still have the heart of a teacher, but to have the platform of a hip hop star.
I love it. I love it. So I've been hearing so much about this, one of your many viral sensations, right? About Sally Mae. Can you drop a few bars for us from that particular piece, and then tell us why you decided to create this one?
Well, I was really I had full ride to Howard University. I had a full ride to the University of Florida, full ride scholarship to several schools, but I chose to go to LSU, where I had to take out student loans. Are y'all able to hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. So I had to take out student loans to go to LSU. I went there primarily not to play basketball. I'll tell y'all the truth. I was following behind my girlfriend at the time. And when I got on campus, this young lady, she was no longer interested in Lil David from New Orleans East. She was around all these big D1 football players. And she ended up cheating on me with an LSU football player, y'all. A fourth string bench rider, might I add. But that being said, I found myself taking out loans to go to this school. So I thought about dropping out, but I said, nah, that'd be crazy. So I finished school, and upon getting into the rap game, I was like, wow, I just signed a record deal. At the time, I was with RCA Records. I'm like, I just signed a deal, but I still have student loan payments to make. How crazy is this? You know, I've never heard anyone rap about them having student loans. So I said, I'm gonna use part of my advance from my recording contract to pay off all my loans in one lump sum. That way I don't have to just make the minimum payments every month. So when I did it and I got that email from Sally Mae, I felt so amazing. I just felt like, you know, I felt exonerated. I felt liberated. I just felt free. And I said, I have to make a song about this, because anytime something pulls at my heartstrings that much, I have to make a song to encapsulate that emotion that I feel in that moment. So I made the song Sally Mae. And the way the hook goes, Lericia, is I say, for those who doubted me, yeah, this is payback. And I've been on my grizzy, yeah, since way back. No, sir, and I don't drive a Maybach, but guess what I did? I finished paying Sally Mae back. I finished paying Sally Mae back. And when people hear this, it's just instantaneously they relate to it. And they're like, yo, I'm still paying my loans off, D, but I can't wait until I'm in your shoes. I can't wait. And I was like, this needs to be spoken about more in hip hop. We always talk about getting money. All rappers talk about is getting money, but no one talks about how to manage your money once you get it. You know, so for me, I might not have the album sales or the amount of followers as some other rappers, but because I'm smart with my money, I know that I'm in a great position. You know, I have been able to ascertain, and I'm thankful for that. So financial literacy matters for sure. And Sally Mae, No Car Note. These are songs I embrace talking about financial topics in my music. Yeah. I got a new one coming out called Passive Income. So that's dropping soon. So yeah.
So David, what kind of car you got now, man?
So for the longest, ever since I knew Dr. Moore, I was pushing a 1998 Honda Accord, right? That thing had about 300,000 or 400,000 miles on it. And I went to Europe a couple years ago. I had to tour in Europe. When I came back from the European tour, that car was kaput. Like it was done. It literally just quit all the way on me. So I got rid of that, and I got a newer Honda Accord. So I actually got one. It's dumb to buy a car brand new in my opinion, but I got one that was like one step below being brand new, like 1 year removed from being brand new. I'm sticking with Honda Accords because I'm a road warrior and I'm always on the road. I need good gas mileage, and and I need something dependable.
Real quick, D.
Hey, David, you don't want to be like that Bentley just eats up his gas and his gas money.
Yeah, I'm not like Doc. I'm not on that level yet. Yeah, like maybe one day I'll be big time.
Let me ask you this, David.
Hey, David,
go ahead, Kevin.
How the hip hop influenced the NBA?
How has hip hop influenced the NBA? Whew. First of all, what in the world do you think every player is listening to before the games? They're not listening to Kenny G anymore. This is not The Last Dance where Michael Jordan said he was listening to Kenny G. No, sir. No, sir. In real life, if you ask Steph Curry what he's listening to, Steph Curry is listening to D1. I'm one of the game. There's real crossover between hip hop. Hip hop gives you the fuel that you need to go out there and drop 20, 30, 40 points a game.
Real quick, D.
What's funny?
I'm just laughing. Let's talk about the industry for a minute, man, because you had a record deal and you gave it up.
Yeah.
You know, you do your own tours, you sell your own merch. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to give your record deal up, and do you regret it at all?
I gave my record deal up because I got into it thinking that signing a deal was going to validate me. That was always the goal as a young man. Man, getting signed, that's the epitome of mama, I made it. And when I got signed, I instantly started feeling like a slave. I started feeling like an undervalued employee. And I also started feeling like my creative freedom was in a stranglehold and at the liberty of a bunch of people who didn't even listen to hip hop music, but who were extra opinionated about what I should be doing. So songs like Sally Mae that have completely changed the course of my life were told that I was told that that song was corny by my record label. I was told that most of my fans probably don't even go to college. This is a direct quote from the record label I was signed to. So just seeing that type of stuff made me say, okay, being independent at this point, I have the main thing that I lacked at first, which was confidence in my entrepreneurial skills. That's the main thing that I lacked at first, was just the confidence to feel like I could do it and I could wear all these hats. But now y'all are speaking to a man who, like Doc said, I put on my own tours. I put out my own albums. I have my own clothing line, missionvisionlifestyle.com. I actually just became an investor in a wooden watch company. So, you know, I have watches that at this point, this is something that I promote and that I push. And I have, you know, a stock portfolio. I have real estate. Like, once my confidence as an entrepreneur really was elevated, at that point I knew that a record label was actually holding me back.
Woo, come on, man.
Yeah, that was deep. Before we let you go here, D1, I gotta know, you know, there are a lot of NBA players that as you mentioned, who have always had that desire to be rappers, who probably started off that way, but then of course sports sort of took over. One person who comes to mind is Damian Lillard, right? When you think about certain current NBA players, or not only just NBA players, I won't limit it to that, right? But when you think about certain current professional players, who comes to mind as a person who actually might be all right as it pertains to being a lyricist or a rapper? I thought about Damian Lillard. What are your thoughts?
Okay, Lericia. Okay, listen. The bar is really low at this point in hip hop, because some of the artists who have gone multi-platinum, they are not lyrical at all. So the bar is really low. So with that being said, like, Dr. Leonard Moore can rap, Kevin A.D. Anderson can rap, Lericia Harris can rap. Like, rapping is not even what it's about anymore. So I would say that 8 out of 10 NBA players can rap. Now it's about how charismatic are you. Now it's about what is there that's unique about you that makes people remember you. Is it your tone of voice? Is it your storytelling ability? So with that being said, I have current NBA players right now, literally last week, who just texted me and told me to send them some beats because they want to hop on some songs with me. Like, so many NBA players enjoy hip hop and they feel like they can really do it. The same way people like me, who average 19, 20 points a game in high school, I feel like I could call out an NBA player and I could really hang with them. But in real life, I mean, we all just fantasize. The NBA players should stick to balling, and Dame Lillard is a person who is definitely not bad. Dame is not bad. Dame is a person who you can tell he cares about the craft and he takes it seriously. But now listen, I know I can spit bars with the best of them. They're gonna embarrass themselves.
Okay, one last thing before we let you go, though. You got to give us your top 5 rappers of all time. Top 5.
All right, my top 5 of all time. All right, God bless
write
the
this
dead.
down.
All right, DMX.
What number is he?
That's one. Huh?
He's number
What
1.
Is he?
Oh wait, is this in order or is this just 5?
I want you to put them in order. Put them in order for us. Put them in order.
Oh gosh. All right. 2, 3. All right, cool. Here we are.
Okay.
All right, my number 5 is Lupe Fiasco. Thank you for those claps, whoever did that, Wayne. Let's see. My number 4 is Jay-Z.
4. Okay. 3.
My number 3 is DMX.
Okay.
My number 2 is Nas.
Okay.
And my number 1. Hey, real talk.
You know what?
Hey, David, you always vote. You vote on yourself, so that's a good choice. Always
That's
vote.
it.
You did. You bet on yourself, D1.
I would never not bet on myself. Period.
You bet on yourself, D1.
Hey,
I'm
David,
glad you
gotta
did
do
that.
me a favor, though. You got to do me a favor, and you know
What's up?
Dr. Moore as well as any of us. He has a fetish for watches. The other day we were talking, and he had this beautiful watch. So he needs one of your watches right now. So whatever you need to do to send it to him, send me the check, and I'll pay for it. Yeah. So ask him, hey Doc, which one do you want?
Hey Doc, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send you the website, Doc. It's rburnettbrand.com, and these are amazing luxury handcrafted wooden watches. And it's a young brother from my home state of Louisiana who actually came up with this amazing concept. And I just knew that it was something, that I would be excited to be a part of because it's amazing. So Doc, you helped change my life. So the least I could do is bless you with a watch from my brand. So I got you.
And I'll wear it on the show, man.
There we go. That's what I'm talking. I wear 2 of them. You feel me? So yeah, the least you can do is wear one. There we go.
D1, we greatly appreciate you joining us on the show. Thank you so much for your time. We are just excited for you. We appreciate your words and good luck. Best of luck. We hope to have you back soon.
Thank you. And if Kwame Brown put an album out, would we all go get it or not right now? If Kwame Brown was dropping the album right now, would y'all listen or not?
You know what? We are going to leave that one right there. David Augustine Jr., everyone, aka D1. We thank him for joining the show.
Thanks, David. Love you.
Great conversation talking about the intersection of hip hop and sports, right? Great conversation there. Love to talk about how hip hop has influenced sports, NBA specifically. That was our focal point today. We're getting close to wrapping up time, guys. So we got to get your final thoughts. Doc, what are yours?
Want to give a shout out to Paul Mooney, rest in power. He died today. He was 79, a legend, a lot of behind the scenes guy. He worked with everybody from Richard Pryor up to doing this, writing for the Chappelle Show. I saw him perform in Austin 5 or 6 years ago. He did a lot of race type jokes. And boy, he was on one that night because a lot of white folk got up and left. And, and we were like, he just cracking jokes, but he had a gift. He was brilliant. And so we need to, honor that brother's legacy.
AD, your final thoughts.
Yeah, Doc, you're absolutely right. Paul Mooney was brilliant. He probably is one of the best comedians, and he had a social conscience, and he brought his social conscience into his comedy. And so I'm with you on that. So rest in peace, Rennie Stennett. I just talked to you about the 75 Pirates. He was a member of that, the second baseman, and he still holds the record for going 7 for 7 in a 9-inning game.
Wow.
So he was part of that crew that changed baseball in that era. And so God bless him and may his soul rest in heaven.
And we again greatly appreciate each and every one of you for watching us on whatever social platform you are watching us. Don't forget to like us if you're watching on Facebook Live and subscribe to us if you are on YouTube. Again, thank you so much for joining us for another episode. This week's topic, we talked about hip hop's influence on the NBA. Next week, we got another great guest joining the show, so you don't want to miss it. We'll have those details coming out for you very shortly here. So don't forget to come back and join us next week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, right here on 4th and Just Us. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.